Imagine a world where you've never seen the light of day, a world where darkness is all you've ever known. There was a man who lived in Jerusalem, and he was blind from birth. He sat by the roadside every day, relying on the generosity of others to survive. He had never seen the beauty of the world, never seen a single face, not even the sun or the sky. But one day, something incredible was about to happen. As Jesus and his disciples walked down the road, they passed by the blind man. His life, which had been defined by darkness, was about to be forever changed. One of the disciples asked Jesus, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus replied, "Neither this man nor his parents sinned, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. As long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world." Then Jesus did something unexpected. He bent down, mixed some dirt with his saliva, and made a paste. He gently spread it on the blind man's eyes. Jesus then told him, "Go, wash in the pool of Siloam." The blind man, with no idea what would happen, trusted Jesus. He made his way to the pool, and when he washed the mud from his eyes, something miraculous happened. For the first time in his life, he could see. He could see the light, the colors, the faces of the people around him. He could see the world that had been hidden from him for so long. As he stood there, in awe of what had just happened, the people who had known him as the blind beggar started to notice. They whispered, asking, "Isn't this the man who used to sit and beg?" Some of them were sure it was him, but others were doubtful. "No, he just looks like him," they said. But the man himself spoke up, "I am the man who was blind, but now I see." The crowd was astonished, but they weren't sure what to make of it. They took the man to the Pharisees, the religious leaders, to see what they thought about this miracle. When they brought him before the Pharisees, they asked him, "How were your eyes opened?" He replied, "The man they called Jesus made some mud and put it on my eyes. He told me to go to Siloam and wash. When I washed, I could see." The Pharisees were divided. Some said, "This man is not from God, for he does not keep the Sabbath." But others argued, "How can a sinner perform such signs?" Confused and frustrated, the Pharisees turned to the blind man and asked, "What do you say about him?" "It was your eyes he opened." The blind man answered, "He is a prophet." But the Pharisees weren't satisfied. They called for his parents. "Is this your son?" they asked. "Is he the one who was born blind? How is it that he now sees?" His parents replied, "We know he is our son, and we know he was born blind, but how he can see now, or who opened his eyes, we don't know. Ask him. He is of age. He can speak for himself." The parents were afraid to say more because the Pharisees had already decided that anyone who acknowledged Jesus as the Messiah would be thrown out of the synagogue. So, they left the blind man to answer for himself. The Pharisees came back to the man. "Give glory to God. We know this man is a sinner." The blind man, standing firm in his testimony, replied, "Whether he is a sinner or not, I don't know. One thing I do know, I was blind, but now I see." The Pharisees, growing more frustrated, asked him again, "What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes?" The blind man answered, "I have told you already, and you did not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciples too?" The Pharisees were furious and insulted him. "You are this fellow's disciple. We are disciples of Moses. We know that God spoke to Moses, but as for this man, we don't even know where he comes from." The blind man replied, "Now that is remarkable. You don't know where he comes from, yet he opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners. He listens to the godly person who does his will." Nobody has ever heard of opening the eyes of a man born blind. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing. The Pharisees were enraged and said, "You were steeped in sin at birth. How dare you lecture us?" And they threw him out. But then something amazing happened. Jesus, hearing that the man had been thrown out, found him. Jesus asked him, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" The man, still overwhelmed, replied, "Who is he, sir? Tell me so that I may believe in him." Jesus said, "You have now seen him. In fact, he is the one speaking with you." The man, in awe and with a heart full of faith, fell to his knees and worshipped Jesus. "Lord, I believe," he exclaimed. And so the blind man, not just healed physically, but spiritually, had his life transformed forever. He was no longer in darkness, but in the light, not just with his eyes, but in his soul. This story is a reminder that Jesus didn't just come to heal the physical ailments of mankind. He came to open our eyes to the truth, to the light, to himself. Just as he gave sight to a blind man, he offers us spiritual sight as well, so that we too can see him clearly and follow him.